The massive diplomatic station horizon floated silently against the starry backdrop, its crystalline structure reflecting countless pinpoints of light. Inside its main diplomatic chamber, Sarah Park moved with quiet confidence, her dark blue uniform crisp and immaculate. She was different from typical diplomats. While most representatives carried digital tablets and complex translation devices, Sarah carried something unusual: a small data chip embedded with centuries of human conflict resolution strategies. Her dark eyes scanned the room, taking in every subtle movement and unspoken tension. Around her, alien delegates from various star systems whispered and shifted uncomfortably. Their technological sensors and biological indicators were all focused on the human delegation, a group of 5 individuals who seemed both relaxed and intensely alert. The humans wore simple gray uniforms with minimal technological embellishments. No elaborate decorations, no fancy insignias, just clean, functional design that suggested preparedness without aggression. Their postures were relaxed yet controlled, like predators waiting patiently. Kanto, a reptilian diplomat from the Orion cluster, watched the humans with growing unease. His scaled skin shifted colors, a biological response to emotional states. Right now, he was broadcasting a mixture of curiosity and fear. "They carry weapons," he muttered to his assistant, a translucent crystalline being named Zira. "But not just weapons. Something more." Zira's crystalline form flickered, processing the observation. "They appear different." Sarah knew exactly what they were discussing. Humans had a reputation across galactic circles, not as conquerors, but as something far more complex. A species that prepared extensively, studied meticulously, and responded with calculated precision. The chamber's ambient temperature seemed to drop a few degrees. The human delegation remained unchanged, their body temperatures steady, their breathing controlled. No visible signs of aggression, yet an undeniable sense of potential energy surrounded them. A young human diplomat, Daniel Roberts, caught Sarah's glance and smiled slightly. Not a threatening smile, but one of understanding. He knew what the other species were thinking, and he was amused by their mixture of fear and fascination. The station's artificial gravity hummed softly. Holographic displays flickered with diplomatic protocols and translation matrices, but the real communication was happening in the micro-expressions, the subtle body language that transcended spoken words. Sarah stepped forward, her movements deliberate and calm. She was here to understand, to bridge gaps, to unravel the mysterious perception surrounding human preparedness. Why did other species view humans as constantly armed? What story lay behind their reputation? Her data chip felt warm against her palm, a repository of human resilience and strategic thinking. Centuries of survival, adaptation, and complex problem-solving compressed into a tiny technological marvel. The diplomatic session was about to begin. Tensions simmered just beneath the surface, a complex mix of respect, fear, and genuine curiosity about the human delegation. No one in that room knew exactly what would happen, but everyone felt something significant was coming. A moment of potential revelation that could reshape interstellar relationships. Sarah Park adjusted her uniform, took a deep breath, and prepared to unravel a story that had been building for generations. The humans weren't just another species. They were something more. A civilization that had learned to prepare, to adapt, and to survive against impossible odds. And today, they would start explaining why. The ancient data archive hummed softly as Sarah inserted the memory crystal. Holographic displays flickered around her, casting blue and silver shadows across the research chamber. Dust-covered digital records from Earth's most challenging periods began to emerge, revealing a story far more complex than standard galactic historical archives. Humanity's history wasn't just a timeline of events. It was a chronicle of survival against impossible challenges. The first images showed Earth, a planet that had survived multiple near-extinction events, climate disasters, technological conflicts, potential asteroid impacts, and brief but intense global struggles had shaped human civilization. Sarah watched recordings of human adaptation. In one segment, she saw how a global environmental crisis in the 2050s forced humans to develop radical technological solutions. Cities became self-sustaining ecosystems. Agricultural systems transformed. Water management technologies emerged that could convert desert landscapes into productive farmlands. The military archives were particularly revealing. Unlike other galactic civilizations that developed weapons for conquest, humans seemed to design technologies primarily for defense and survival. Each weapon system, each defensive strategy, carried the weight of collective trauma and resilience. A particularly interesting recording showed how humans responded to a potential global pandemic in the early 21st century. Instead of collapsing, they rapidly developed medical technologies, created global communication networks, and mobilized scientific communities with unprecedented speed. Daniel Roberts, who had followed Sarah to the research chamber, pointed at a specific recording. "Look at how quickly they adapted," he said quietly. "Not aggression. Pure survival instinct." The archive revealed layers of human complexity. They weren't a species that sought conflict, but one that prepared extensively to prevent it. Every technological advancement seemed rooted in a singular motivation: protecting their collective existence. Geological records showed how humans had transformed their understanding of planetary risks. They developed early warning systems for natural disasters, created advanced climate prediction models, and built infrastructure that could withstand extreme environmental changes. Space exploration records were equally fascinating. Humans didn't just launch missions, they prepared meticulously. Each mission carried multiple backup systems, redundant communication protocols, and comprehensive risk management strategies. Where other species saw exploration as an adventure, humans saw it as a carefully calculated scientific endeavor. The most striking revelation was humanity's approach to potential extraterrestrial contact. Instead of developing aggressive first contact protocols, they had spent decades creating communication systems designed to minimize misunderstandings. Mathematical languages, universal communication frameworks, and extensive cultural sensitivity training were standard in their space exploration programs. Sarah noticed something unique in these historical records. Unlike many galactic civilizations that saw technology as a tool for expansion, humans viewed it as a means of problem-solving and collective protection. "They don't build weapons," Daniel remarked. "They build solutions." The data crystal continued to project images. Humans working together during global challenges, scientific teams collaborating across continents, technological innovations emerging from collective effort. Each image told a story of a species that had learned to survive not through individual strength, but through collective intelligence. Technological timelines showed rapid advancements, from basic computing to quantum technologies, from mechanical engineering to biological adaptation systems. Humans moved with a speed that both impressed and intimidated other civilizations. As the research chamber's lights dimmed, Sarah understood something profound. The human reputation for being heavily armed wasn't about weapons. It was about preparedness. It was about developing comprehensive solutions to potential challenges before those challenges could become threats. The data crystal finished its projection, leaving behind a sense of quiet determination. Humanity's history wasn't a story of conquest. It was a narrative of survival, adaptation, and a relentless commitment to solving complex problems. Sarah looked at Daniel, a small smile crossing her face. Their mission was becoming clearer with each discovered record. They weren't here to explain human aggression. They were here to reveal human resilience. The interview room was silent except for the soft hum of translation devices. Sarah sat across from Ravi, an elder diplomat with skin like weathered parchment and eyes that had witnessed centuries of galactic interactions. "Tell me about humans," Sarah said quietly. Her recorder was carefully hidden, capturing every nuanced response. Ravi leaned forward, his hands clasped tightly. "Humans are not what others believe them to be," he began. "They are not conquerors. They are problem solvers." He shared a story from 30 years ago. A potential conflict between three star systems threatened to erupt into full-scale war. The diplomatic channels were breaking down, tensions rising like pressure in a sealed container. Then the humans intervened, Ravi said. Not with weapons, with communication. The intervention wasn't military, it was intellectual. Human diplomats had analyzed the conflict's root causes: economic disparities, resource distribution, cultural misunderstandings. They created a comprehensive solution that addressed every party's core concerns. They didn't just stop a war, Ravi explained. They prevented future conflicts by understanding the problem completely. Another interview revealed more. A Centauri system representative named Elena spoke about a technological crisis. When her civilization faced a potential ecological collapse, human scientific teams arrived with solutions, not occupation forces. They brought knowledge, Elena said. Adaptive technologies. Systems that could help us rebuild without external control. Sarah discovered a pattern. Wherever humans appeared, they'd brought solutions. Not conquests, not demands, just intelligent, carefully researched interventions. Daniel Roberts, listening quietly, made careful notes. Each interview revealed another layer of human approach: strategic, thoughtful, deeply analytical. A veteran space explorer named Marcus shared a crucial insight. Humans prepare for everything, he said, not because they want to fight, because they want to survive and help others survive. The interviews painted a complex picture. Humans weren't just technologically advanced, they were systemically intelligent. Every potential challenge was an opportunity for comprehensive problem-solving. One recording particularly struck Sarah. A diplomatic log from a near-conflict zone showed human representatives spending weeks understanding local cultural nuances before proposing any solution. They didn't rush. They didn't assume. They studied. "We are not weapons," one human diplomat had said in an old recording. "We are bridges." Ravi's final statement resonated most. Humans carry technology like a doctor carries medical tools, he explained. Not as weapons, as potential solutions. The interviews revealed something profound. The human reputation for being heavily armed was a massive misunderstanding. They weren't preparing for war. They were preparing to prevent it. Each conversation added another piece to the complex puzzle. Humans weren't about destruction. They were about preservation. Of life. Of civilization. Of potential. Sarah looked at her collected data. Dozens of interviews. Hundreds of perspectives. All pointing to the same conclusion. Humans were not a threat. They were a unique form of galactic problem solvers. The translation device clicked softly. Another recording complete. Another perspective captured. Outside the interview chamber, stars continued their silent dance. Civilizations continued their complex interactions. And humans continued doing what they did best: finding solutions where others saw only problems. Daniel looked at Sarah. No words were needed. They both understood. The story was becoming clear. The Grand Council chamber fell silent when Sarah Park stepped forward. Holographic displays flickered around her, projecting complex data sequences that represented decades of diplomatic research. Alien delegates from 17 different star systems watched her with a mixture of curiosity and tension. Some shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Others remained absolutely still, their biological sensors scanning every minute detail of her presentation. "Humans are not what you believe," Sarah began, her voice calm and clear. "We are not a species of conquerors. We are problem solvers." The first holographic image displayed Earth's survival history: centuries of environmental challenges, technological adaptations, and collective problem solving. Graphs showed how humans transformed potential catastrophes into opportunities for innovation. Kanto, the reptilian diplomat, leaned forward. His scaled skin changed colors rapidly, reflecting his intense emotional state. Confusion, surprise, growing understanding. Sarah presented evidence systematically. Not emotional arguments, but cold, precise data. She showed how human technological interventions had prevented at least 3 potential galactic conflicts in the past 50 years. Our preparedness is not aggression, she explained. It is a calculated approach to collective survival. The most powerful moment came when she displayed a series of diplomatic resolution documents. Each showed how human teams had solved complex interstellar disputes without a single military engagement. Pure intellectual intervention. Daniel Roberts stood beside her, supporting the presentation with additional context. His presence was calm, almost zen-like. No aggression, just quiet confidence. The council representatives began whispering. Translation devices hummed with multiple language conversions. Slowly, understanding started replacing fear. Sarah showed how human technologies were fundamentally different. Where other civilizations developed weapons, humans developed adaptive solutions. Communication systems, environmental restoration technologies, medical breakthroughs that could transform entire planetary ecosystems. We prepare, she said, not to fight, but to protect. Not just ourselves, but everyone. A Centauri system representative asked a critical question. But why are you always prepared? Why the constant readiness? Sarah's response was simple. Because in our history, being unprepared meant extinction. We learned. We adapted. The holographic displays continued showing human achievements, not conquests, solutions, technologies that could transform barren planets into living worlds, communication systems that could bridge the most complex cultural divides. Kanto's skin finally stabilized. No more rapid color changes, just a steady, deep blue of understanding. The presentation lasted 2 hours, but it felt like moments. Each slide, each data point told a story, not of human superiority, but of human potential. When Sarah finished, the chamber was different. The fear had transformed into something else. Respect, curiosity, a genuine desire to understand. Daniel approached her, a subtle smile crossing his face. Well presented, he whispered. The council would take time to process the information. But the first step was complete. Perception was changing. Slowly, methodically. Outside the chamber, stars continued their silent dance. Civilizations continued their complex interactions, and humans continued doing what they did best, finding solutions where others saw only problems. Sarah knew this was just the beginning. One presentation couldn't change centuries of misunderstanding, but it was a start. As she walked out, the diplomatic station hummed with new energy. Something had shifted, not dramatically, but fundamentally. Humans weren't a threat. They were a possibility. And in the vast, complex universe of interstellar relationships, possibilities were everything. The final diplomatic session began with an unusual quiet. Delegates from 17 star systems sat carefully, their previous tensions replaced by a newfound curiosity about humanity. Sarah Park stood at the center of the circular chamber, her data crystal glowing softly in her hand. Daniel Roberts stood beside her, a silent but powerful presence representing human diplomatic strategy. We propose a new interstellar protocol, Sarah announced. Her voice was calm, professional, carrying the weight of decades of research and diplomatic preparation. The proposed resolution was revolutionary. Instead of traditional defensive agreements, humans suggested a comprehensive collaborative framework, technology sharing, scientific exchange, mutual problem-solving initiatives that would benefit every participating civilization. Kanto, the reptilian diplomat whose perspective had dramatically shifted, was the first to speak. Your approach is unexpected, he said, his scaled skin now a steady, calm blue. The protocol outlined specific mechanisms for joint technological development. Humans would share their adaptive technologies, environmental restoration systems, medical breakthroughs, communication protocols, without asking for territorial control or economic dominance. We are offering partnership, Sarah explained, not conquest. Not control, just collective problem-solving. The most radical part of the proposal was its transparency. Complete open-source documentation of technological developments. No hidden agendas. No secret military strategies. Just pure collaborative scientific advancement. Alien delegates reviewed the documents carefully. Complex translation matrices converted every technical detail, ensuring complete understanding across different linguistic and biological systems. Daniel presented case studies, moments where human technological interventions had saved entire planetary ecosystems, diplomatic resolutions that prevented potential conflicts, scientific collaborations that transformed entire star systems. The resolution wasn't just a document. It was a fundamental reimagining of interstellar relationships. Hours passed. Negotiations continued. But the atmosphere had changed. What started as a tense diplomatic encounter was transforming into a genuine dialogue of mutual understanding. Humans are not warriors, Sarah said during a critical moment. We are problem solvers. Our technology is our language. Our preparedness is our communication. The final document emerged after intense discussions. A new interstellar protocol that recognized human capabilities not as a threat, but as a potential pathway for collective galactic progress. Signatures were added, not just legal formalities, but symbolic gestures of a new understanding. Canto's signature transformed the document from a mere diplomatic agreement into a potential turning point for galactic civilization. As the session concluded, something fundamental had shifted. The perception of humans was no longer about fear, it was about potential, about possibility. Daniel looked at Sarah. No words were needed. They both understood the significance of what had just happened. Outside the diplomatic chamber, stars continued their silent dance. Civilizations continued their complex interactions. But something was different now. Humans had proven they were not a threat to be feared. They were partners to be understood. The universe seemed to pause, absorbing this new possibility. Sarah's data crystal continued to glow softly, a small technological marvel that had helped transform galactic perception. Not through aggression, but through understanding. As they left the chamber, the diplomatic station hummed with new energy. A quiet revolution had just occurred. Not with weapons, not with force, but with knowledge. With communication, with the simple, powerful human ability to solve problems and build bridges. The stars seemed to shine a little brighter.